Oh, that
Holy
was
fuck, that was nice. Um, so what happened was, since Beth is leaving tomorrow, like she's driving 5 hours, or a total of 8, mind you. So I decided, you know what, honey, I'm a good husband. I'm gonna go fill the truck up for you.
what a man.
I
What a
know,
hunk
right?
of a man. Wow, look at this absolute stud.
Ugh. All right. So I drive down a few blocks, right? Quick Trip's right on this corner of Central and Oliver. It's on the northwest corner. So I fill up whatever, and I pull out to.
Wow, for once.
I know, right? Sorry, Will.
Love you, Will.
But yeah, so I pull onto the road heading east to west, and then at that intersection, there's a truck in front of me, and we're turning left onto Oliver. And so pretty much, we get the green arrow, we go, and as we're going on Oliver and we're going forward, going northbound, this guy pulls out in this Buick, this shitty ass Buick, and
Always
I'm
the Buick.
within. Oh, for real, I'm within like, wow, 2 meters of the truck in front of me. Because we're going like, I don't know, 15, 20 miles an hour, right? And this guy just jumps out there, and so I gotta slam on my brakes, and I beat my horn at him, letting him know like, hey, dickhead, I'm here. I almost hit you. And the guy pulls in front of me, which was the right way to do it, of course, being a left-hand turn lane. He flips me off, and then he waves me off, and then, without using a turn signal, jumps into the lane to my right, and I have my windows down, mind you, because it's nice cool breeze. And this guy comes back towards me, looks at me, and it's funny because there are cops blocking 3 blocks on the right-hand side of us as we're coming up to them, right? They've got 3 blocks cut off because people were shooting fireworks and some dumb shit. And this guy, he's looking at me. He has a lady in his passenger seat, and then he pulls up this. It's like we call them shorties. It's like a real short shotgun.
What?
Yeah, it's not the first time. So he pulls a shotgun over, right? He has his left arm on the steering wheel, and he lays a shotgun on his arm, aiming it at me. And I already had my handgun in my hand because that's what I do.
Pull out the strap.
The Quick Trip I was at, it's kind of a necessity. So I had it with me. No round in the chamber because it doesn't have a safety.
Like? I'm just interested. What
Iraq.
You know what? I feel bad for the guy with the shoddy because he's going up against the MMP's own Marine. Like he's going up against the cream of the HIDF.
Well, funny you say that, because his little shorty was a pump, okay, and so he would have had to, bring the weapon back, pump it, and shoot again. Which by that time, my magazine of 6 would have been somewhere in his vehicle. But he points that thing at me, and I'm driving. I look at him, no rounds in the chamber of my pistol because it doesn't have a safety. So the moment I see him aim his shotgun at me, I look at my steering wheel, I press my pistol against it to rack it, and then I point it at him. And this guy takes the fuck off. And we have the same intersection we turn at, apparently. But this guy went right, and I went left. And by the time I got there to turn left, I could not see his car anywhere.
Wow. So clearly he didn't have one in the chamber.
Either A, bro didn't have one in the chamber, B, he was scared of the smoke, or C, he had his old lady in the car and he was thinking of her. Either way, dude doesn't know how to drive, and
I don't think he was thinking of his lady if he's pointing a gun and trying to get into a firefight with her in the car. That's I don't think that's his priority.
I'm not going to lie to you. I felt pretty badass after racking that pistol on the steering wheel.
my man messed with the Horizon Islands Defense Forces, and the Horizon Islands Defense Forces won.
So it's funny.
Happen to rack it in front of him. Like, did he see that you do that, or?
Yes, he did. Because the way I was sitting, my left hand is on the steering wheel, and I'm holding my gun against my leg to where no one can see it. Okay, so he didn't know I had it until he aimed a shotgun, and then that's when I reached up and I basically punched the steering wheel, but the gun's in the hand, so it racked around in the chamber, and I literally just aimed it at him, and he took off. At that time we were going about 30 miles an hour. Speed limit's 35. He had to be going like 50 by cops, mind you. There were 3 blocks of an area where cops had the road blocked off and just standing there, and they watched this. Not a damn one of them did a damn thing. I was like, okay, whatever. It's a cool story, but first time, it's funny because the 2 times I've had a gun pulled on me, it's been by the same weapon. It's a shorty shotgun. And the first time was when I was still in the Marine Corps. We flew back for Christmas or something like that. It was around that time. And we had just left my wife's house, or my wife's parents' house, and her dad gave me $40 for my birthday. So that was I don't carry cash. That was the only cash I had on me. So we're driving a rental car, and we're by the airport because we're leaving. I got to fly back to California, so I don't have my gun on me because I can't fly with a handgun. So we stopped at the store, and it wasn't a Quick Trip, but it was a racetrack, which is like Quick Trip. And basically, this big ass blacked out SUV rolls up, and it's the middle of the day. And this is Middle Eastern dude's like, "Hey man, I'm trying to sell these gold chains and watches, to get my family back to wherever the fuck." And he's got his kid in the seat. It's obviously a scam, right? It's a very common scam. Like, "Oh, dude, sorry, I don't carry cash." And I look, and I'm trying to tell this guy this. And as I'm telling him this, I look to the back seat behind the driver, and the window's blacked out. But I look between the seat and the door, and there's a dude laying back with a little shotty pointing at me through the window that's blacked out. So I wasn't supposed to see the guy. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. So I handed him $40. He said, thanks. And they drove away. I called the cops. So on and so forth. I was a little heated. I didn't have a gun on me. So lost my birthday money.
That would be just a walk around the back and then empty a magazine.
Fuck that. I would have, quote, reached for my wallet and right then and there, fuck that guy. The dude looked like he was, I remember his face too. He looked like he was maybe 20, like my age at the time. I was pissed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, lesson here, gentlemen, if you're in the States, stay strapped or get clapped and carry $40.
HIDF tip of the day. If they pull a Glock on you, pull a 30mm on them. It's perfectly legal to roll around in a Bradley. It is completely fine. They are street legal.
Yes.
Well, gentlemen, speaking of street legal, or in this case, lack thereof, this week we will be discussing the Leopard family of tanks.
Woo! Can't wait.
But first, shall we do some introductions?
Oh, of course. Well, you got me, Callum, coming in from New Zealand, and I have myself being a bit of a hipster to this time. I've got a Nectaron IPA from Castles, and let's see if I can capture this well.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, it was,
I could hear the air release pretty well.
I mean,
I'd give it a 7.
Yeah, it's a solid 7. Maybe I might go as far as a 6, but yeah, it's solid.
I mean, it wasn't as good as like the intro one, that thing was
fuck no.
Yeah. Only time I've hit it perfect, but what can you do? Anyway, that's me.
Well, next you got me, Garrison, here in Kansas, defending off me and my fucking Ford Ranger from Meth Heads, drinking coffee and working on a MiG-21.
And you got me, Dennis, up here in Ontario. Happy Canada Day to all my Canadian friends. And
I am Canadian.
One day, inshallah. I am currently sipping on a Kirkland Diet Green Tea. It's very good.
And it's also your birthday.
Happy
Yes.
birthday to you. Happy
Thank
birthday to you. It so happens that Dennis got a leopard for his birthday too.
I did actually, and that wasn't even planned. Like that just happened.
Your girl knows, bro. She's in the server. She knows.
She hooked me up with that. Look, my biggest flex in life. My girlfriend hooks me up with stealth technology. That's all I'm gonna say. My girlfriend is secretly working for Northrop Grumman.
Hey.
I'm exposing that.
Dennis, tell Garrison what you got. You got a pretty good stash.
Did I not tell? Okay, dude.
Oh, you
So
told me,
about
but
the
let's tell the
YF-23
viewers.
because I was nutting about that all day. Tamiya 112 scale Honda NSR 500, the race bike, Warhammer tank, and Leopard 2A7.
Man,
And
you
that's
got
the
a
best
fucking.
Footlong YF-23.
Yep.
The only footlong
Oh
in that relationship.
yeah. Oh, hey, sometimes a 6-inch will get it done. And that right, Jared, who's in prison. You know what I'm talking about? Jared from fucking Subway. Fucking creep.
What? I'm so lost. There must be an
You're
American.
lost? What? No, it's what?
Bro,
Well,
I'm
you know,
sauced up the whole day.
Dennis, you know the fat guy from Subway who's like got thinny because he was too fat to walk anywhere, so he just went to Subway. And then there's like,
have no idea what you're talking about.
It was marketing from years ago.
There's pictures of him like in one of his old pants, standing in one of the pant legs. What they didn't know in the footage is there's a couple kids down there as well.
Oh,
yeah. The dude was a pedophile, and he was like the broad, like the face of Subway for a few years.
Oh yeah, that killed Subway for a while.
I
didn't
just
it?
turned 20, man. I'm not that old.
Bro, I'll be 25 in November. I'm not
you're
that
old as
much
hell,
older
man.
than you.
Turning to dust right before our very eyes.
You little youngins. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm still the young guy
Callum
on the
over here.
podcast. I can claim that. Anyways,
Tonight's
gentlemen,
episode, yes.
tonight, in partial honor of Canada Day, we are talking about NATO's other tank, not the Abrams, but the Leopard.
Challenger.
Shut up.
The Leclerc.
Shut up.
The Sherman.
I should have put in the slide about the EMBT, but honestly, I think there's enough we could do an entire mini episode on the EMBT.
To be honest, we probably could. Well, the whole getting like that whole section of fucking tank history of America and Germany trying to build a tank together and failing. That would be a good episode, actually.
Oh yeah. Well, to start off with, dear viewers, I'm blessing you and my fellow podcast members with this beautiful shot of a Canadian Leopard 2A6M can
blowing its load
8 downrange. Oh, damn. Hey Garrison, you're gonna like this. You know what's one thing that makes Canadian Leopards different from all other leopards?
What's that?
It apologizes?
Yes. They have air conditioning.
Oh! I gotta join the Canadian Army. Ignore my bad knees and back and memory loss.
I don't think that'll stop you.
You know what I like about this photo? One of the road wheels is like different colored.
It's too clean. What's going on here?
It's like, why is it?
Yo.
It's like you got tan and then you got green. Like, what happened here?
Yeah,
there's probably a modeler on board that fucking tank, and he's like, "Nah, I need some to break up the monotony here."
This is over weathered.
And you can see that the hubcap itself is covered in mud, so it means that they had to take a road wheel off, put a brand new one on, and then throw the hubcap back on.
Probably in the field as well. I do like how you can see the mud splatter going all the way up to the top of the turret.
Like, don't ever let anybody tell you that your model is overweathered.
Yeah, no.
They're a bunch of idiots. I'm saying that on the record.
Well then, let us start from the very beginning with the goofy-ass Leopard 1.
It's not goofy. It does its best.
Dude, Calm, let me get the laser point out. Okay, what is wrong with this tank?
Awkward. Actually, I'm gonna. Never mind. I'm not gonna say. Actually, fuck it. It looks like Jack's Station.
Well, the tracks are back to front.
Exactly. What the?
You're supposed to laugh, you fucking dicks.
We're just leaving you dry on that one.
Well then,
Just like
let us
that.
go back to 1965 when Porsche and Krauss Maffei designed and built the Leopard 1. The Leopard 1 was the first domestically produced German tank after the Second World War. And
Domestic German tanks, huh?
the
Took a long time
domestic.
getting there.
Oh God!
Once Germany was
Oh,
finally domesticated.
Watch it. He's going to Kursk again.
oh no! Oh
All right,
no!
sorry.
I'm going to
Continue.
open up a salient. Oh no! Oopsie!
Did someone
Uh.
say Blitzkrieg? Sorry.
So let's do a brief overview of what the Leopard 1 was. So basically, back in the 1960s, Germany wanted to replace their aging American M40 series tanks with a tank of their own design. This is what they came up with. Basically, the main features of the Leopard 1, I think, as modelers would be interested in, it has thin armor, really, really good suspension and tracks, which would actually carry over all the way to the modern day. It would have a very, very powerful engine. It was an MTU MB838, and that one was an 819 horsepower engine back in 1965. So,
Oof.
stupid powerful. To give you some reference, this one weighed only 42 tons.
That's like. What else is like from World War II that's 42 tons?
Like the Panther was. It was in the 40-ish ton range, wasn't it?
I thought the Panther was slightly heavier than 40 tons. Like,
It might have been slightly heavier.
Yeah.
But anyway, basically, like from a modeler's standpoint, imagine a Panther tank with an 800 horsepower engine.
And an even better gun.
Exactly. Oh, well, we'll talk about the gun. So the gun on the Leopard 1 was a licensable copy of the British Royal Ordnance L7-105. And that is, I think Callum, you'll agree with me, that's probably one of the best anti-tank guns ever made.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's been used in so many tanks. It's even still used now, and it's still capable of punching through a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, the British know how to make anti-tank guns. For a while.
Yeah.
No,
so
actually, I'll stand by that point. I will stand by it, and I will defend it one day if anyone asks.
That's
Anyway.
fair. Yeah. So a little tidbit about the Leopard 1, because I think we all want to get onto the juicier tanks, but while we're here,
This
interestingly,
is juice.
there is juice to be had, the juice tank. The Leopard 1 was actually a collaborative project between West Germany and France and Italy. Unfortunately, however, the partnership ended shortly after the final design was ordered by the Bundeswehr. In total, 6,485 Leopard tanks have been built, and I think of those, 4,700 or so were battle tanks. The rest being, utility tanks, Gepards, that sort of thing.
Is that because the Italians insisted on putting the transmission in backwards?
I
one forward,
don't
5
know
back.
why they pulled out, but they did. Yeah. But
They said no to a new Germany. That's why.
that's pretty much it. Yeah. But
They
so
just got
basically,
flashbacks.
one of the reasons why the Leopard 1 was so important, from a tank history standpoint, was because it was really, in many respects, it wasn't the first MBT, but in many ways, it was a sign of where MBTs were going, if that makes sense. So one thing with the Leopard 1, it has very thin armor, right? This was an intentional decision, actually. So this was back in the 1960s. High explosive anti-tank rounds are becoming a lot more common. So the thinking at the time is armor is just like armor is obsolete at this point, right? Because in theory, a heat round can go through like over 200-300 millimeters of armor. So there's no point in building tanks with any kind of survivability on them, right? With the Leopard, unlike say its American predecessors, it's designed just to be fast, to have a powerful gun, and to be able to fire on the move. One of the reasons why it was able to fire on the move, it had advanced optics, and it also had a stabilizer for the gun. So this kind of marks, yeah,
The fucking beer video.
yeah, exactly. That was on
Yeah,
Leopard
that is
2,
a Leopard
but
1, isn't it?
It is.
I think it was Leopard 2,
Was it?
but it's the
Must
same
have been
thing.
an early one.
Yeah, it was an early one, but
Yeah.
same idea, right? The idea being, rather than building a tank that's designed to take damage, as it were, right? You give it a minimum amount of armor, keep the weight down, give it give it a fantastic engine, give it fantastic off-road mobility through the suspension tracks, a stabilizer, and a really good gun, and see how fast it can go, right? And this one could reach up to 65 kilometers an hour.
Jesus. So this also would you reckon they're thinking for you got the Cold War, you got the threat of Russia suddenly invading somewhere. So the Leopard one with its speed would be a very good like sort of intercept, or like
Yeah,
you reckon
yeah.
that was
I
in
mean,
their thinking of like it's fast enough to get to somewhere and start just doing something.
that's absolutely. I don't really know. Obviously, I'm not inside the head of the designers, but I'd say if you put yourself in West Germany's position during the Cold War, you have a small army, right? You don't have a lot, so you would be better suited to working as a rapid reaction force in NATO rather than trying to fend off the whole Soviet invasion yourself. These things are fast enough that if you can use roads, you can get to any point of Soviet breakthrough pretty fast. And with, again, that really powerful gun, it would be able to do quite a bit of damage to any Soviet tank at the time.
This would be this is pure shoot and scoot.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And again, the idea here is that it was kind of an overreaction, I would say. Like, and you see this to some extent with like American tanks. Like, the Sheridan was an earlier design, and obviously there are huge differences. That was supposed to be air mobile, but you look at a lot of American tanks, and armor gets thinner. And it's the same with, say, the French tanks or the British tanks. Even British is a bit weird because you have things like the Chieftain, but on the whole, after the advent of things like anti-tank guided missiles with heat warheads, people start to think that maybe tanks are becoming obsolete, and that's why you see with things like the Leopard, it is a tank, but you're sacrificing a lot of the armor protection for things like speed and firepower. So it's almost more like in some ways, it's more like a tank destroyer, like an M18.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the British, with their thinking, their hulls were, the Centurion, the Chieftain, the Conqueror. The hulls were pretty weak, but the turrets were incredibly strong.
Oh
Because their
yes,
doctrine is hull down.
I recall hearing. I think it was a tank chat from the Tank Museum, and it was about the Chieftain. And one crewman said, if you had a Chieftain in a hold down position, there was really nothing that could take it out. And that
Yeah,
was back
like
in the 80s.
yeah, the front turret of a Chieftain, like when it's angled right and it's hull down and everything, you will not be able to hit it. And if you did hit it, you could not penetrate that bastard.
Yeah.
And it also just looks awesome.
Yeah, so that is the original Leopard 1. That was primarily used by West Germany. I believe also the Netherlands used it as well. It was, it was an esoteric design, but you can even see just by looking at the suspension, looking at the gun, it's laying the foundations for what would become an incredibly successful tank family.
I'm just going to ask, the tracks that they got on it on that one, those
Yep.
look like American pattern style or something like that. Are they
I,
like borrowed or?
I cannot say this for sure, but I'm 90% sure those are actually just M48 tracks because they're double
Yeah,
pin. They're
yeah,
double pin
they
M48 tracks put on
they
backwards.
look very American. Yeah, even the road wheels, they look like the lower half
Yeah.
looks
Well,
M48.
you have to imagine because they had so many M48s in service, it would be nice to have even a little bit of parts commonality.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good
Also,
idea.
Garrison, top right photo, that would be perfect for you to make into a diorama.
It would. I was literally thinking that earlier. That
He's,
and the
he's
one on the
already
bottom
planning that
right.
one. Don't
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
have
I've
don't you
got.
have a Leopard one?
I have the Tamiya old one, but dude, that kit is just fucking outdated, bro. Like I've tried 3 times now to start that kit. I look at it time and again. I'm like, no, I got to get a better one.
Send it to me. I'll have it built in a week.
It would cost me like a paycheck to send it to you.
Yeah. So one thing that I think is pretty neat to talk about with the Leopard 1 is that even though the original design, it's great, but it was a product of the 1960s, right? And this is a tank that serves, I mean, countries like Canada are using them to this day. So the Leopard 1 has undergone a lot of really neat incremental improvements where it gradually is changing shape to become a much more competent main battle tank for the modern era. So I think we're just going to briefly go over some of the neat variants here. So this tank you see here on the left, this is a Leopard 1A1. So basically, with the Leopard 1A1, you've got a few major changes. The first one was actually the tracks. So they got rid of those M48 style double pin tracks to go for single pin tracks, which are kind of like the standard kind you see on the Leopard. The 1A1 also added a thermal jacket on the gun barrel to essentially control heating of the barrel and prevent it from warping over time. And it included a new stabilizer from Cadillac Gauge. As well, it also had the PZB200 image intensification system, which is right here. That's basically like the new gunner's sight.
Okay.
It looks
Yeah.
like the gun mantlet has also been up armored.
And they also began to add up armoring packages to the turret and gun mantlet. You can see some of them here, right there, and then also around the mantlet.
Mm.
Yeah. God, it looks
And-
good with the camo net.
Oh yeah,
In Arma 3, the I think it's the global mobilization. They've got this variant of the Leopard 1. It is so fun to play with.
it is pretty neat. And this is basically, this came out fairly soon. I'm trying to remember when it came out. It was like 74, so just about 9 years after the original Leopard 1 came off the line. They're basically going back to starting to up armor them because I think people realized, yes, heat rounds are a big issue, but things like spaced armor, like these on the turret, it does do a lot to help prevent against that. This tank you see here is the Australian AS-1. That was their variant of the Leopard 1. That one was basically used to replace the British Centurions after the Vietnam War. But in 2004, it was replaced with US M1A1s.
I
And
will
that one
say,
is based.
Aussie camo goes hard.
It does.
I hate to admit it because
Yeah.
New Zealander,
Yeah.
but the Aussies, even their Abrams look way better than the Americans.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's fucking American. It's Cartan. Fucking idiots.
And then on the bottom here, this is pretty neat. This is a Canadian Leopard C2. So Canada has, we're going to talk about this a bit later, but Canada has had a long history of taking Leopards and pimping them out. The C2 is just one example of it. To spare you some unnecessary details, what the C2 program basically amounted to was making the Leopard 1s into a 1A5. So the idea here was that the Leopard 1A5 adds, first of all, again, the composite turret armor. It also added, actually, no, that's composite. It's made out of polycarbonate, actually. As well, they added a new thermal optics system to it, a new image intensifier, and it had a new fire control system. So basically, this C2 has a similar fire control system to early Abrams.
Damn.
Yeah.
There's one thing annoying me about this photo.
Which one? The bomb one?
Bottom right one.
Yeah.
Road wheel, third one on the left. It's sitting on the track pin.
Yeah.
It's not aligned. That's annoying me.
That is.
Oh God, it is.
That is Canadian Gate Guardians for you.
It's like, gee, that poor road wheel having the bloody guide horn digging into it.
Yeah.
All
Ugh.
these years.
Yeah, so basically, to sum up Leopard improvements over the years, you start off, you add improved image intensifiers, you add the better tracks, then you go towards adding things like, okay, now we're going to add on armor panels, we're going to add on better fire control systems. Then you end up with this. The C2 is basically the most modern version of the Leopard 1. It is still used by the Canadian Reserves. The Chileans also use it as well, I think, as the Brazilians. And this is basically it's
Damn,
not.
Brazil has these?
Yeah, Brazil has them. The Leopard
What the
1A5 BR.
fuck? The fuck are they fighting over there besides the cartel?
Well, yeah, how else are you going to fight the cartel, dude?
That's fair.
But yeah, these are it's interesting because the Leopard 1 has basically, throughout all these years, been kept fairly modern to the point where, say, something like the C2, it's not obviously say, Abrams level, but as a second-rate MBT, it's fantastic. Because it's got all the stuff. It's got a great gun, fantastic mobility. Its protection's getting better, and it's got an amazing fire control system.
It's the ultimate reserve tank.
Exactly. It is the ultimate reserve tank. And that was basically the fate of the Leopard 1. So just to talk a little bit more about it. So, interestingly, when Canada went to Afghanistan, we were planning on retiring all of our tanks. And those were all of our Leopard 1s. We were just going to get rid of them and replace them with a Striker and MGS. That did not happen.
Is that because the Striker and MGS were shit?
Yes. Yes.
Oh God, look at that. The one on the left.
Yes.
It looks like it's cosplaying an Abram.
So when Canada went to Afghanistan, one of the things that we found out fairly quickly was that there was still a need for tanks, because tanks had one thing, and that was a very, very powerful gun that could shoot a long distance. The main armored vehicle we had prior to that was the LAV 3, and the LAV 3 is great. It's fast, it can carry troops relatively safely, and it's got a Bushmaster, but it's a wheeled vehicle. So one thing that was found in Afghanistan was, due to the things like the mine and IED threat, you needed to have a vehicle that, if it was hit by one, yeah, you can have the mobility kill, but the people inside need to be safe. And this was in the days before MRAPs had been fully developed. So they decided to basically take all of our Leopard C2 tanks, which we saw on the other slide, and up armor them. So this is the Leopard C2A1, and what this is essentially is a full like state of the art modernization of the Leopard 1 to fight the counterinsurgency in Afghanistan. So to sum it up, I already told you about the C2. The main difference between this and the C2A1, the C2A1 adds a completely new composite armor module, which you can see basically here on the sides of the hull, and then on the turret with the huge cheeks and a massive rear bustle. So the
Huge
idea with
cheeks.
this was that now you essentially have a Leopard tank with composite armor survivability. So things like RPGs, SPG guns, these are not even going to scratch it because of the composite armor modules. On top of that, they later got better thermals and they got air conditioning. And these were basically the workhorse of the Canadian war in Afghanistan all the way up until like 2009, I want to say.
Oh damn.
And these were partially responsible for how quickly Canada wiped out the Taliban.
So I don't know much about Canada's involvement in the Middle East. I know like they were there. I don't. So what exactly? Like how many troops were on the ground?
God, it was a few thousand.
Few
Basically,
thousand?
Canada was part of the original coalition that invaded Afghanistan. They were one of the groups that deposed the Taliban government.
Okay.
And you know how Afghanistan was basically broken down into sectors of control afterwards?
Yep.
So Canada basically single-handedly had to control Kandahar province, which you have Kabul.
Oh
and
wait,
Kandahar's
hold up.
Yep.
How long were y'all tasked with Kandahar?
Up until I think it was 2011 when the pullout began. And it was over by 2014 or something like that.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, there were Marines there too.
Yeah, there were Marines there as well, but basically Kandahar
Holy
province was
shit.
Canadian control. So like there were other groups, like I think the British operated there, the Marines operated there, but the whole thing was ultimately a Canadian operation.
That is crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, basically that was so the second most populous province in Afghanistan was partially under the control of the Canadians, and these tanks were used there basically to prosecute the Taliban in conventional warfare. So one of the tactics the Canadian used was to actually force the Taliban to engage them like on a one-to-one conventional fight, where obviously having tanks and stuff like that, the Canadians won fairly easily. So things like Operation Medusa and Operation Athena were operations where the Canadians drew the Taliban out and forced them to fight on basically a level playing ground. And that's where these tanks came in very handy.
Dude, I didn't know Canada served in Kandahar province.
Yeah, that was like there were thousands.
Dude, I'm gonna have to do some research on that, man. That's awesome.
I can actually send you a paper if you want on Canadian tanks in Afghanistan. And
Just Canadian forces in general too. Yeah, please do that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's another photo of the C2 Mexus there. Really neat subject, I'd say. And again, don't ever let anyone tell you your model is over-weathered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
look at that.
that wet streaking down the side is that is cool. That is good.
Yeah, and
Like, that is good.
basically, in terms of production vehicles, I'd say this is about as good as the Leopard 1 ever got. Like, this thing was the ultimate counterinsurgency vehicle.
And the fact it's a Leopard 1.
At its core, it's the same as the tank that I showed you on the first slide.
Which is just kind of mind-boggling if you think about it. Like, holy shit.
We took them down to LA Customs. Got new wheels.
Oh, God. Well, think about it. Because the Taliban, they got like T-55s and shit, right? Like the occasional. And it's fighting its, Cold War counterpart that's, beef the fuck up. It's like, oh God, I wish, actually, never mind, I'm going to not say that.
And so, I thought, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, I'll let you finish that. I was going to ask you about the other two, the German ones.
Actually, I'm glad you asked because that's a perfect segue. So I thought, just to give you guys a little something to look at, these two pictures are of the Leopard 1A6 prototype. So they made the 1A5, right? And I was kind of saying that like that was a last production upgrade they made. That was exported to multiple customers, not a single country. They also made the Leopard 1A6, and this was a prototype. This was based on the Leopard 1 A1. It was modified with additional armor on the turret and equipped with a L44 120mm gun. This project was ended in 1987 because it was replaced by the Leopard 2. But basically, if they had not gone with the Leopard 2, this is what they were going to go with.
Huh.
Is it just me, or does the turret look really far forward?
I think
have
it's.
they-
I
have
think
they
it's because of
moved
the composite armor cheeks.
I think so. It kind of like it's kind of got the profile of like say a Pershing or an M46 or something like that. You know, like the turret's quite far up front. It's kind of
Yeah.
got that sort of silhouette.
I think we
What
may have
the
excited
fuck was
Garrison.
that? I mentioned the Pershing.
Calum, can you
What'd he spell? What'd he spell?
please put the Pershing waifu into the slide?
No, God
Don't
damn
worry,
it, never mind.
there's-
I
there's a-
redact everything I just said.
Don't worry, Dennis. Just wait. Just wait.
Why can't
No, not my God. You whatever.
Well,
Anyway,
now
Oh.
we get to talk about the cool one, the Leopard 2. So,
Look at it.
in summary, the Leopard 1 had a lot of great lessons. What did we get out of it? Well, we found out that having a fast tank is cool. Fast MBTs are neat. Firepower is key. Having a good fire control system is also important. So things like good optics and good thermals are going to be important. And we found out that the MTU power plant was a fantastic way to get a tank around the battlefield. And the suspension and tracks were great as well. You will notice on the Leopard 2, these are carried over from the Leopard 1.
I mean, if it works.
Yeah, same power plant. Same, basically, for all intents and purposes, the hull is similar. It's got an upgraded but similar power plant. Again, upgraded but similar tracks, suspension, the whole deal. Right? They're taking basically the parts of the Leopard 1 that were best, and they are slapping new stuff onto it. So this was something that was kind of cool because this was already being thought of as the Leopard 1 was entering service. Now, of course, this was born out of the MBT 70 project, which was that disaster that America and Germany collaborated on. They wanted to basically make a next generation tank as a joint partnership. That obviously collapsed, and we got two tanks out of that. We got the Abrams and the Leopard 2 Leopard 2.
So really, it worked out in the end.
I mean, I'm happy with how this went. Yeah,
It's like the two best friends, and then they meet their new best friend, the Challenger 2. It's like they're all just happy and dominating Eastern European armor.
And then you have the Leclerc in the background going, "Hi guys."
Yeah, that's the kid on the basketball court that no one talks to. And that's why no one plays basketball anymore.
Yeah. So starting in 1967, West Germany was basically beginning to research, how could they improve the Leopard 1, which is crazy because it entered service only 2 years prior. But they were already looking at, okay, what can we do to improve this design? To say, basically, they went through a major, they just bought prototypes. They had something like a dozen different prototypes for the Leopard 2. And you can see this is one on the side here, the T14. Again, you can basically see kind of a similarity to the Leopard 1A6 on the previous slide, where you're adding composite armor, you're changing up the hull a little bit, adding the 120mm gun, but in many ways it's still got a lot of those similarities. And then in 1979 we get this, the production Leopard 2.
Oof. I love the insignias they got on the front cheeks.
Oh yeah. So let's skip right to it. Basically, if from a modeling standpoint, the first Leopard 2 you're going to want to worry about is the Leopard 2A4, because that was the first one to really enter series production. The Leopard 2A4 takes a lot of similarities with the Leopard 1 in terms of the power plant and hull, but it builds upon this a lot. Basically, with this, you have a new turret and new hull armor that uses composite materials. That is why the Leopard 2A4 has such a square-looking turret, because originally with the composite armor package it used, it has this need to have very flat surfaces. You can't curve composite armor. So that's why it's got that very tiger-looking turret. Again, Rheinmetall L44 120mm gun. It's fantastic, right? It's being, at this point, proven all over the world. Yeah, and it incorporates things like blowout panels for the first time. You can see here, this is a Canadian 2A4 in
Yes, the
New
oak leaf on
Brunswick.
the side.
Yeah,
It
I do.
just
I
looks
like
so
the black.
good.
I like the black maple leaf. It looks good.
It's
That turret
uh,
is fucking massive, isn't it?
Well, and that's one of the
dude.
things that you're going to see with, say, the Leopard 2 series that you won't see on the Leopard 1. It has that really long turret bustle, and that again, it's like on the Abrams. It's because of the blowout panels. You want to have your ready rack in this state where if it's hit, it's not going to explode into the tank, it's going to explode away from the tank. That's one of the reasons why in the Leopard tank, most of the time, if your ammo rack is hit, the safest place to be is in the tank.
Yeah, yeah. Tell the Russians that.
No, well,
But Dennis, white smoke means tank go bow.
Seethe. Seethe. That's all I gotta say about Cope and Seethe, man. Oh man, I just love the
So what happened
camo
with
that
the
it has.
Leopard 2 A1 to A3? Are they just like concept designs or like
As
just like
far,
meh?
and again, I'm not an expert on the Leopard. I'll admit to that.
Mommy
The way
and
I
Daddy don't talk
understand it,
about them.
the way I understand it is that basically 1 through 3, they were real tanks, but they never entered series production. The 2A4 was the first one that really entered proper series production and was exported. So really, that's why that's the first one that we often talk about.
Right, gotcha.
So then in the mid 2000s, there's this idea that, well, the 2A4 is great, right? Fantastic mobility, great optics, so on and so forth. But what if we have to protect it more in, say, an asymmetrical combat environment like Afghanistan, for instance? What about heat rounds? Now, of course, the composite armor on the Leopard 2A4 is great. It's very effective against heat rounds, but can we make it better? And that's where the Leopard 2A5 comes in. For all intents and purposes, you can think of the 2A5 as basically being a survivability and situational awareness improvement on the Leopard 2A4. The gun is the same, the internals of the turret and the hull are the same, but the 2A5 adds what's called the Arrowhead armor package, and this is basically an additional layer of composite armor that is spaced on top of the original 2A4's armor. So underneath all these wedge-shaped armor components, there is just a 2A4 turret, but now you're adding spaced composite armor, which is basically the idea of it, is if it's hit by, say, a heat round, for instance, right? The first problem is for the heat round, it's sloped armor, so its effectiveness is already reduced considerably. On top of that, it has to penetrate this composite armor and go through that open air, which open air is not good for a heat round after it's already been activated. And then it has to somehow try and get through the second layer, the original layer of armor, composite armor. So the Arrowhead module greatly improves the protection on the turret, especially against heat rounds. The other thing that this Leopard 2A5 gets is the Commander's Independent Thermal Viewer, the CITV, which is something that at this point most modern tanks had.
Wasn't it like the effective armor thickness of the Arrowhead something like 2 meters if it was just solid steel?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Jesus God.
And again, if I should put an image in here, Arrowhead modules are thin. They are extremely thin, but the reason why they're so effective, they've got that open air between them and the secondary layer of armor. So if you got a heat round, it's going to activate to get through the Arrowhead module, but then it's going to cross all this open air, and that's not good for the copper jet. The copper jet is supposed to go through steel, not open air.
Yeah. Aren't the arrowheads also like hinged? I think I've seen them hinged just so you can
They are
access.
hinged for easy access. Yep.
Yeah, to panels and stuff like that.
Exactly.
That's good forward thinking. I got to say that's like they actually considered that, and yeah.
The 285 is a really interesting tank. And the way I often think about it to myself is like, this is imagine for modern Leopards, the Sherman 75. They kept the L44 gun, and many countries like Germany and Spain still use this tank, even though the 2A6 has helped because that lower velocity gun is much more effective against soft targets. So there is a tactical reason why you might want to keep a tank with a slightly less powerful gun.
It's the assault. It's the assault. It's the assault leopard. That's what it is.
Basically,
it's the leopard jumbo.
The U.S. only sent Leopard 2A5s to Normandy because they did not think that the Leopard 2A6 would be necessary. That a little obscure Sherman joke for you all there. Speaking of which, here is the Leopard 2A6. So again, in the late 2000s, this is basically the improvement that came out with the Leopard 2A5. Biggest thing here, the addition of the new gun. So instead of the Rheinmetall L44, it now has the L55, which can fire significantly larger and longer ammunition, which has a much higher muzzle velocity. So this, in many respects, is sort of equivalent to, say, the US upgunning their Abrams tanks with depleted uranium ammunition. It still fires tungsten core sable rounds, but because of that boost in muzzle velocity, they have just that ability to overmatch Russian armor. And that's
So this
what
is
this was really going for.
like World War II terms. The A5 is like the Tiger 1, the A6 is like the Tiger 2 with the longer barrel 88
Yeah,
with the larger ammo.
Except for
that's a good way of
breaking
putting it.
down and shit, it's
Yeah,
it
but it's actually
works.
useful.
You know what? I would even go so far as to say the 2A5 is the Sherman 75, the 2A6 is the Sherman 76, because fundamentally, when you break it down, the 2A5 and 2A6 are the same tank, except with a different gun, right? And so, different, obviously, the different things to accommodate that different gun. But fundamentally, it's a firepower upgrade because the Germans felt, because they weren't going to be using depleted uranium ammunition, they needed to have this ability to just completely overmatch anything that Russia or China could come out with. So that's
So-
why they came up with this.
So why don't they want to use depleted uranium ammo?
That is a question I don't actually have a solid answer for. I think it just pertains to
What are they like the good guys now?
there's something that they just will not buy DU ammunition. It's either that or the Americans won't export it to them. It's one of the two.
It'll be something like either the Americans won't export it, they don't want to have a single exporter. Like if you have like one brand that you buy from, they can rot the fuck out of you for it because you don't have a choice. I think there's also now like environmental concerns on using depleted uranium. Like they've been fired and they're burying themselves into the ground, and then now you've got uranium that's just in the fucking ground. I think
Well,
I have read there
that's
like
the farmers' problem.
environmentalists do have concerns about that. But
That's the farmer's problem, not mine.
Yeah, but that is the 2A6. And then we get to the 2A7.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh God! Look
God
at it.
damn,
Isn't that beautiful?
That is
it's
the
amazing.
most gorgeous
That
thing
shit
I've
is
ever seen.
sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean it. I remember growing up, I hated modern tanks because I thought they were like, because they're quote futuristic. They're not Shermans and shit. But like, holy fuck, that is just. Mm.
Yeah. So this is the latest version of the Leopard, the 2A7, entered service with an initial batch of 20 tanks in 2014. Basically, what this is it's a 2A6, but they're adding stuff to it, if that makes sense. So it's got improved optics. It's got improved armor modules. They have improved the ceramic armor, especially on the hull. It's generally just basically the way you can think of it is a quality of life upgrade on the 2A6. But the cool thing about the 2A7 is it's being used as basically a platform to do things like install the Trophy Active Protection System, RWS systems, stuff like that, right? So this is going to basically be the new 2A6, but as a platform to install cool upgrades on.
Oh, okay, so it's now the new base platform, and they can just throw new shit.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
in a sense, this is the Sherman M4A1.
In a way,
Fucking-
yeah.
Oh god, that's exciting. I can't wait to see this shit in like 20 years.
And now we gotta talk about foreign variants. We'll start off with Canada. So Canada has upgraded both the Leopard 2A4 and 2A6. So on the left here, this is the Leopard 2A4 MCAN. This is a Canadian specific variant. Basically what they do is they gave a 2A4 composite armor modules and a new thermal sight. And the idea being basically it now has protection equivalent to the Leopard 2A6. So it's basically a 2A5 on the cheap, is the way you can think about it. Yeah. But with more protection because it's got the ceramic armor modules on the side as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's our 2A4, and that's kind of like the staple tank for the Canadians now. There's also the 2A6, which was originally used in Afghanistan. It's a Dutch 2A6, and then what we did is a couple things. More armor was first added to it, then the bar armor, then the Barracuda thermal camouflage system, and then new seats were added. These new seats are suspended by ropes and pulleys from the roof and floor of the tank. The idea being that now it can drive over mines, and the shock of the blast will get transferred through the tank, not through the crew. But yeah,
Huh, that's cool.
That is
Yes.
so smart, and that shows that Canada gives a fuck about its people.
Oh, and it also has air conditioning.
Sign me up. Where's my maple syrup and fucking raccoon?
Those
Don,
are
come
the,
here.
those are the original 2A6Ms in Patrol Route Hyena. That's one of the upgraded ones for the Barracuda thermal camouflage system.
God damn.
Also, Poland operates the Leopard 2PL, and this is basically, again, the Leopard 2A4. Again, they did the same thing the Canadians did, add armor upgrades, add new CITV. So essentially what they're doing is they're bringing a 2A4 up to the standard of the 2A5, but on the cheap. Singapore also has one. This is the Leopard 2 SG. This is pretty interesting because on top of new optics, again, Leopard 2A4, but it's fitted with the AMAP composite armor system, which is kind of like the Mexes composite armor system that I showed you on the Leopard 1 slides. It also has bar armor as well.
That bar armor is so cool. Although, if you had a model of it, it'd be a bitch and a half to make.
That would
Yeah.
definitely be photo etch, and that is something we don't do. Waz, get over here. Or Waz, sorry. Old habits die hard. Where's my Coke?
I'm not a fan of the Singaporean color, though.
It's,
What?
Yeah.
It needs to be weathered, that's why.
Ew.
Leopards have also been used as engineering vehicles. This one here is a Burj Panzer 3, I believe, the Buffalo. This is pretty cool. I like it. It's got a huge crane on it.
And a dozer blade. Everything's
And
better
this
with a
one
dozer blade.
I just want to throw this photo in here. This is actually pretty
No.
cool. This is a Canadian Leopard with the composite armor upgrades. So even our engineering vehicles, we had the up armor. You got the little tactical umbrella pulling the Lab 3 out of the mud.
Look at the little lav. He's so cute.
I just can't get over the umbrella. The umbrella is definitely my favorite part.
That is pretty funny.
Oh, that's
Fucking
good.
Canadians.
So, gentlemen, models, shall we discuss them?
Well, now that we're in the mood,
Oh, yeah. And then I've essentially lubricated you guys up. Now it's time for the main event.
Where Ukraine Leopard?
So I added some now. I didn't know Ryfield was doing this, but basically Border and Ryfield are both making 2A6s with the knife reactive armor that Ukraine makes, which is just so cool.
and then of course
I
you
need a
got
sniper.
their new Kodiak.
Yeah, that's their technology demonstrator for basically a replacement to the Burj Panzer 3. This one's pretty cool. The Hobby Boss Iguana. This is their bridging vehicle based on the Leopard 2.
And then of course you got the Canadian version.
And that one's actually a really good kit. Comes with rubber tracks, but I find they're really good.
Is that the bar armor? Is that like photo etch, or is that
Plastic. And it's actually pretty in scale. I mean, as
Is
far
it?
as plastic goes, it's fairly good.
Oh yeah.
And you got
How
the Leopard.
fragile is it?
No, not fragile at all.
Okay, so you could like sand it down a little bit if you wanted
Absolutely, yeah. You could bend it if you want, like heat it up and bend it.
to. Oh, okay,
Oh, nice.
right on.
And then, of course, you've got Meng's Leopard 2A7, and I've heard pretty good things about this. Obviously, being a Meng kit, pretty complicated, but if you want 2A7 in 35th scale, that's the way to go. This one, I just add this for sheer cool factor. Tiger makes a Leopard 2 Revolution, which was basically a technology demonstrator before the 2A7 with a 130mm gun. That is just...
That was cool.
Look at that box art. Border is pretty cool because they do one 2A5-2A6 in 72 scale. Hobby Boss does a couple of Canadian Leopards. Tamiya, of course, with their original Leopard 1. And, of course, this one, the Meng Leopard C2 with the dozer blade.
And the Mexus. Oof.
Yeah. That's just so cool. And this one's for you, Baz. 2A6 and 72 scale from Model Collect.
Wonder how good that is in the 72nd.
I'd be interested to know.
Yeah,
And that was the Leopard.
Where Leopard 1?
the Tamiya one. That was a Leopard one.
There's more than that. I know there is.
Anyway. So that was the Leopard series by Dennis. That was a very, very interesting one. Actually, that was really cool. I enjoyed that.
It was. Thank you very much,
Cheers,
Dennis.
fellas. Glad I was able to do it.
Likewise.
Alrighty. We will be taking a brief intermission. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Autoloader Decals. Have you wandered round the shelves of your local hobby store and found that perfect model kit? Great tooling, fun to build, and look, you remember seeing the subject. Perhaps it was a truck in the ubiquitous white UN paint scheme in the newspaper, or maybe it was a Sherman tank from your local armour unit. Everything is lining up for a fantastic new project, one with a more interesting connection to yourself, instead of a project derived from a history book. Then you open the kit, and there are none of those specific markings to be found. Waterslide decals really put the final touch on a model, and unfortunately for the model maker, most kit manufacturers won't put too much time into designing decals that produce a finished model in anything but its most stereotypical form. That's why Autoloader Decals exists. It is their sincere hope that you'll be able to find as much enjoyment using these special water slides as they have. Autoloader decal products are primarily focused on Canadian subjects, but in general, if you're looking for markings that represent vehicles from lesser known parts of modern history, chances are you might just be able to find something worth trying. The waterslide decals are printed through an inkjet printer and sealed with a high quality varnish to ensure their strength on the model. Unlike most other water slides, these decals only need to be submerged for a few seconds and can be placed right onto the model. They are incredibly tough and won't yellow over time. For an added benefit, decals intended for 1:35 scale are treated with a special varnish that gives a subtle, painted-on look that's both in scale and more realistic than other brands' offerings. All the products currently in production are listed in the store page. If you have a custom design you would like to order, the best way of making this order is to send an email through the contact page. Generally, the cost of a custom order will be 40 to 50% higher than any products that are in stock to account for labour. Also, as a special deal, if you are ordering a set of custom decals and you mention the Micro Machines podcast, you'll receive a free exclusive MMP Pinju decal with your order. So next time you're looking to build a specific or unique vehicle, look towards Autoloader Decals. Just go to www.autoloadermodels.ca for all your waterslide decal needs. And now, back to the show.
You are going to be surprised by this statement I'm about to make, but I think I enjoy building jets more than I do building like propellered aircraft.
Yeah, that's fair. I find that like they're a lot easier just because you don't have to mess around with doing exposed engines and propellers.
I don't know why it's like, I don't know, it's just easier. I don't get it. Like,
I'm back.
oh well, welcome back.
Alrighty, gentlemen, hobby news.
Ooh,
Count
my
what have you
favorite.
got for us?
All right, so for hobby news, up first. Hang on, where's my notes? God damn it! I am. Fuck.
We believe in you, Callum.
Anyway, ooh, why is that?
Look at that
screwed down?
long thing.
Why, thank you. I made it myself. I mean, so up first we have a brand new trumpeter kit. This is in 72nd scale. It is a MAZ 537G tractor late model and CHMZAP, fuck me, 5247G semi-trailer. Seriously, all armies, militaries, all of that. Tone down the bloody numbering. For Christ's sake, just give it a name.
No.
Anyway, so this is like the Cold War Soviet Dragon Wagon, basically. So it's been released with two color schemes. You got just a standard Soviet green, and then a green and I think it's a three-tone green, black, and white. So yeah, it doesn't come with a tank to go on the back, but I'm sure you can make one yourself. But retailing for about $31 US. And
So they make
what
for a
next?
good like oh, you know those like super long tree lines with the roads next to it in Ukraine? This
Yep.
would be perfect for that. Like they're loading up a destroyed fucking T-72 or something on the back of one of them up against that tree line. Kind of like the box art, actually.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yes!
also from Trumpeter, also in 72nd scale, actually, we have an M706 Commando armored calf in Vietnam service. So the Commando, is mainly used by the military police. It was for perimeter security, base security, stuff like that. So of course we have two color schemes with it. two decals. The color schemes are the same as both grey, but one of them has MP on the side, big decals. So yeah, these commando armored cars were. Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they used them much in the jungle. They were more for just MP security and stuff like that. But they look freaking amazing. And if it was in 35th, I would take it. 72nd, yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. It is a cool it is a cool vehicle and something new. So who
Something
else
different
wants that?
too.
Yeah.
I'd take it. Shit.
And up next from New Zealand, Kotare. So they have announced they have their Spitfire Mark IIA, which they've released. Up next is going to be a Spitfire Mark I early. So I believe this kit will include either a 2 or 3 bladed propeller, because of course the original Spitfire had a 2-blade. And they have announced that later on, afterwards, they'll be releasing a Spitfire Mark 5A. So the Mark 5A is just before they start dropping 2 of the machine guns on each wing and adding in a cannon. So, yeah. Qatari 32nd scale Spitfires, they look so amazing.
They are,
Very nice.
yeah.
Like, it's wingnut wings type stuff.
It's wingnut wings quality for a World War II plane.
Finally, right? Okay, up next, from Hobby Boss, we have, in 1 to 350 scale, a USS Iowa class BB-61. So, of course, this comes with 2... what is the aircraft that the Americans use for seaplanes?
That,
The Curtis...
I believe, is a Kingfisher, I want to say?
Yeah, the Curtis... It's like the
Kingfisher.
Curtis OSTU Kingfisher or something like that. But it does come with 2 of those. And it looks amazing. The Iowa class is a freaking massive battleship. These are retailing for... These ones are a bit dear at the moment. They're $309. So if you're really into it,
That's
come with
a little much.
It does come with a ton of photo etch and metal gun barrels, but I'm sure you could probably find an upgrade kit at some point. And
Wait,
then,
one sec. What scale did you say that was?
350.
Okay, I thought you said, for some reason, I thought you said 700. So I was thinking, man, that's pretty expensive for a 700 scale ship.
Yeah. No, this is 350, so that's big.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Jack!
Yeah.
Up next, so we talked about this before, but this is also from Hobby Boss in 35th scale, the German Iguana PSB-2-14M. Dennis, would you like this? So which one was this again? It was the Leopard 2 bridge layer, basically.
Essentially, yes. So this is the right. Kraus Mafia has made bridge layer variants of the Leopard 2 before. This is basically the modern one, which is on the Leopard 2A6 chassis. It has a much longer bridge. It's got the new scissor design. So this has a much larger weight capacity and it's a lot longer. As you can see, it also has a more advanced delivery mechanism. You don't just drop the bridge. It actually has a pretty neat skid for delivering it. But yeah, this is going to be Hobby Boss's new rendition of that. It's pretty cool. You can even see how it's got the plow right there for trenching itself in as it's delivering the bridge.
And that
Kind of
that
like
comes
the STRV does.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so this comes with 2 decal sets and color schemes, so NATO tricolor and just a standard olive drab. And this one is retailing for about $60 US.
Okay, not too bad. Ah, yes, look at that.
Ooh,
The High Mars Daddy.
basically. So we've got 2 new kits from I Love Kit. Up first, we have another mouthful. We have an M1013 with an M2042A1 GLCM TEL. This is in 35th, so it is massive. Basically it's a Hemet with a multi rocket launcher on the back as a trailer. Am I right, Dennis?
That's pretty much it. Yep.
But this is in 35th scale, so it's freaking massive. It's retailing for about $129 at the moment. But the camo scheme that comes with it appears to do. It does come with rockets as well, so you could probably do something pretty cool with that. But if you're into that sort of rocket artillery, there's definitely one you'd want to get.
Yeah, look at that thing.
And what's next?
Yes,
other
I
kit.
want it. I want it. I want it.
So we have the other artillery from I Heart Kit, Love Kit, whatever the fuck they want to call themselves. This is the M53 155mm self-propelled howitzer. This is the SPG that was based off the Sheridan.
Yep, that's correct.
Yep.
Basically, took a Sheridan power plant in suspension, I believe.
Well, they have modified it a bit. One of the return rollers been pushed forward,
Quite a bit, yeah.
and they dropped the idler wheel. But otherwise, this is a bloody cool looking SPG. Like that turret's full, like almost fully traversable.
Ah, it looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, like it does. It looks like it can turn around. So this is going to be retailing for about $65 USD. Does come with a ton of photo etch, but one downside though, it does have a 2-part barrel. So yeah.
Well, something big and round like that, it's going to be easier to, make blend together versus something like
Yeah.
an Abrams barrel.
And where were these used? They were Vietnam, weren't they?
Looks like Korean War. No,
Sheridan wasn't around.
no, Sheridan. Yeah,
Ennis,
Sheridan. Yeah.
help us.
So that one was Vietnam and later, I believe.
Like
Could probably do some cool Cold War stuff with it, like
it would have been
training in Germany.
in the folded gap, I bet.
Oh,
But you know what? HIDF. Put some ERA on that.
Heck yeah.
bro! Imagine how rusty you can make this thing.
Make it amphibious somehow.
Oh god, that block a chunk of fucking crap. Amphibious, we'll find a way.
And this is just from Artillery. They've announced 4 new kits. And where are my notes? I swear I am useful. I don't forget everything. Mostly.
Unlike the Normandy fucking episode, Dennis. Upload it.
I will.
Okay, so first up in the bottom right corner, we have the Opal Blitz Classic. These are coming out in 1:24 scale.
Holy shit. Why?
Why not?
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean,
fair enough.
Kinda,
It is
yeah.
a car. It is a truck. That's car scale, 1:24.
You know what? You're right.
Up next, just above that one, we have the EA-18G Growler in 48 scale. This comes with 3 markings, as you can see. So it's the Boeing EA-18G Growler.
That would be pretty cool.
How's the Growler different from the FA-18?
So first off, obviously 2-seat. A lot of FA-18s are that as well, but generally speaking, it has a completely different electronic warfare suite. It can basically carry jammers. It can, I believe, carry the AGM-88 HARM. Primarily speaking, it is the buddy refueling and electronic warfare variant of the FA-18. So it's primarily in the payload it carries.
Okay. Right. Gotcha. And then up next, right in the middle, we have the KFZ-12 Horsch 901 Type 40. So this is in 35th scale. So this is the German Army sort of truck carrier type thing.
They're trying to get on that mini-art cache, I see.
Yeah. So we have 4 schemes, 2 grey, 1 desert, and 1 Stalingrad with the 24th Panzer Division. So that's actually a neat camo.
Were you trying to say Opal Blitz?
When?
I'm sorry, I'm high. Not really.
Actually, might be high.
I'm not. I'm masking off this fucking canopy and it's killing me.
And then last but not least, if we go back one more.
All right.
What happened to our slides?
I don't know.
What the fuck?
Okay, and lastly, in 72nd scale, we have a Jaguar T2 RAF trainer in 4 camo schemes. So you have There's not a lot of difference between them. There's just grey, and slightly darker grey. Modern aircraft schemes aren't interesting, are they, anymore?
Boring. Join the HIF.
Well, I mean, think about it. If you've got the capability now of taking out another aircraft that you can't even see, well, why bother with the grey then? Just, go nuts. Make something cool. Doesn't matter
Make
anymore.
it pretty.
Yeah. But, yeah. That is this week's hobby news. If you've learned anything from what I've said, I don't know. Don't know what I've been talking about. Anyway.
Time
Well,
for I'll go back and do the announcements after.
Oh, okay. That's fine. All right, so I've got a few slides. I'm going to try to get through these pretty quick. The first few here are the U.S. infantrymen for my Operation Cobra diorama for our Normandy group build, which we'll get to later. But there's a total of 8 of them, and they're pretty fun. Kind of I say I took my time, but I don't mean I actually took my time. It took a while to get around to finishing them. They're pretty fun. The first guy here on the left, that was probably my favorite one to paint. He's got the
net on the helmet.
Oh, thank you. I thought I was gonna have to go through and paint that by itself. I just dry brushed it, and it's subtle enough you can see it, but it's not overwhelming as if you actually painted it, which I was extremely happy with because I was kind of scared of overdoing it. But it was fun. These guys are supposed to be from the 29th Infantry Division per their logo on their left shoulder. And the guy on the right hand side, he's got his blouse off, so he's just undershirt. But
that's looking amazing, man.
Thank you. Then next we got more guys from the 29th. Left is the medic, looking all kind of concerned. That'll make more sense in the diorama. On the right hand side, you got a guy who was my second favorite, or is my favorite pose out of all the figures. Regular Grand, coming up. I accidentally broke off his fucking shovel handle, so that was kind of a bummer. But and then the guy on the right there, I built him out of 4 different figures. That was fun. His face is all fucked up, so you only get to see the right side or the left side. It looks like his whole face got blown off, so that's going to be fun explaining that one to all the rivet counters. Next. And then last bit of the figures, you have automatic rifleman with scrim on his helmet, and then the presuming the NCO of the group with this Thompson. So fun stuff. It was good painting them. Went a little overboard with how much paint I did on the black acrylic wash, but besides that, I'm pretty okay. I'm pretty happy with them. And then here are some shots I took before the episode started of the Operation Cobra diorama. If you don't know already, there's 2 roads in between. There's kind of a median of a bocage, like a field, German abandoned mortar position with gear laying around, as well as a German bunker with a tarp I need to finish painting. The road on the left-hand side will house all of the U.S. figures, and the road on the right will house a Puma with 2 crewmen. But that was really fun to do. I
loving your terrain so far.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a blast. And then this should be my last one. I started working on, since 6 Days in Fallujah video game came out, I got a bite in my ass for making a modern day ship. So I'm in the process of making a Fallujah diorama, which, funny story real quick, I told this to Callum earlier. My hobby store does not carry black paint, but I saw some. So I snagged 4 bottles of it, not knowing it was gloss. Well, I primed my Puma, the Italian figures for my Italian vignette, and then the guys here on screen, the Americans and the 2 Hajis. Well, 2 days later, I'm still looking at it why the fuck is this shit still wet? Because it's gloss, right? I thought it was matte. and I pick it up, and that's when I realized, well, shit, because it bothers me. It's fucking with my OCD. It's supposed to be dry, but it's not, or it is, but it looks not dry. So it's bothering me. It's my story. But yeah, having fun.
Looks good.
Ah,
Ooh, look at
look
this.
at that! Callum did a vignette.
Yeah, so I've been looking at my Polycarp of I-16, my finished one, just sitting on the shelf, and it looked, because it's such a small aircraft in 72nd, it kind of just looks a bit lost on the shelf. It's just like this tiny little thing on it. So,
Where, Dad?
so I'm currently stuck on a build right now, so I just wanted to like build something real quick. So, was on Thursday, I had about a couple hours to kill, so I started working on the base, and I got it right. I got it finished up to the point where the snow was down, but nothing was on it. And I could have called it then, but I sort of thought, need something in it. And I had a couple of pilots spare, so I spent about an hour researching Finnish pilots uniforms, and they had so many variations that I could find that I just went with the one that turned up most common, which was sort of light grey top, dark grey pants type thing. But then I was trying to figure out how to incorporate it, and I thought, oh, he could be like sitting there ready for a mission or a scramble. But then it's facing. I decided to make the aircraft face a wood, so that's not a good start. And it wouldn't really look right. But instead, I decided, well, the story I'm telling is he's run out of fuel, so he's had to radio back to say that, and he's landed in whatever clearing he can get, and now he's just built himself a small shelter and is just waiting for pickup. So it just adds a little story to it and looks a lot better on the shelf now. So this entire thing took me 4 hours at most, and I even filmed it, and it's on my YouTube channel now as a how to build a snow diorama video. So yeah.
Bro's gonna be there for like 3 weeks waiting for the next storm to pass.
But I've got a few more bases
man. That's
that I'll,
great.
yeah, I've got a few more bases I want to build, but yeah, this one I loved it. You know me, I love doing snow stuff. So yeah, looks better.
Oh,
And
look at that.
and keeping with the weird and wonderful that I build, this is
Yes.
the Humbrol Hella or Hella Humbrol, whatever. Yeah, no, I'm putting myself through it. An AMX. This is technically called an AMX 13 T75. So this is an AMX 1375, but it has the SS11 ATGM launcher rack on the turret. And what I've done, you can see here, is I found in the box was some wire that it just dropped into the box. It's not part of the kit or anything. It just happened to be in there. And I thought this might actually be strong enough, so I drilled a hole into the back of one of the SS11 missiles, and the wire is actually strong enough to hold it up in midair. So I forgot to add the reference photo I'm going to use, but I found a photo of one of these just as it's been fired, and it's got a bit of smoke all around the tank and stuff. So I'm replicating this one photo, so that it's going to have the ATGM mid launch. So
what color is this vehicle gonna be?
still trying to find out, because this one, the kit that I've got comes with either Israeli or Swiss markings, and I do not build Israeli, so it's going to be Swiss. I cannot find a definitive answer on what color they used, so I'm still.
Okay.
That's why I'm kind of held up on it at the moment. I've still got like things to add on the small details on a tank where you spend 3 hours sticking stuff on and it still looks like nothing's changed,
Yes.
and you kind of get a bit by
Yep.
it. So I'm kind of up to that point. Plus, I've got the wheels to do, and doing road wheels, is just always a pain in the nuts. So that's why I'm like, I'm just going to step back for a minute and just work on something else for a while. But yeah, so I'm kind of stuck on that, and I'm stuck on trying to figure out what bloody color the Swiss had these things. So, and also the color of the missiles as well, because they were a different color. Yeah. But
lots of colors going on there.
right now, yeah.
Oh, let me rephrase that. Color finding.
Yeah. Just Google's not helping me out right now, so yeah.
Don't you hate that? You try to find something on the reliable Google and it's like, fuck you.
Say, nope, I'm going to give you unrelated photos. Yeah, but that's what I am currently working on now.
Very nice. I love the calf texture you made.
Thank you.
And this is what I've been
Ooh.
working on. This
You
is
built
the
something,
Airfix.
Dennis?
I know, for once. I
love
didn't make a what if either. This is a real aircraft. This is the Airfix 1/48 scale Hawker Sea Fury. This was done in the markings of the Royal Canadian Navy after the war, and I think it was about 1948. This was one of the aircraft that flew off of HMCS Warrior, one of our aircraft carriers, out in Vancouver.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Nice. Welcome to the the RCN Fury Club.
Yes. Garrison, you have to do one now.
Yeah.
Do they do tanks?
Maybe.
You can paint it like a tank.
If you ask nicely enough.
I think Don's got one, hasn't he? Or Don was looking into
I
getting
think
one.
he was looking into getting one, yeah.
Just because
Oh,
we've both,
oh.
you and I both made Canadian, and he hasn't made one, and that's just making him jealous now. I think, or he's trying to, or he needs to show us up. But no, that looks awesome.
Thank you.
It does. Looks very nice.
Alrighty. Announcements.
Well, this is the big one. So we are currently hosting a Normandy campaign group build running from June 6th to August 30th. Come join our Discord. We have all the rules information if you've got any questions. Submissions, we have a recreational and a competition submission. Come find out what the prizes are. Throw something in both. Have a good time. Hope to see you there. And then longer running is our Horizon Island Defense Force group build. And this one is running until October 6th. Now, however, we are consistently building this throughout the year. Just because that's our whole little spiel is the HIDF. But we are wanting to see your HIDF builds. This is purely just for recreation. But if you want to join in on the fun, come over to our Discord. We have, like I said, rules info, all that fun jazz, and hope to see you there.
All right.
Where'd the slide go?
Keep going.
Oh,
There
there
you
you
are.
The Micro Machines podcast is proudly sponsored by Scale Colors. If you are in the market for acrylic airbrushing paints that are very non-toxic and accurate to historical colors, why don't you go down to scalecolors.com, support our friend Jeff because he supports the podcast, and get yourself some really, really awesome paints. Now, also, going forward, you will be able to get individual link resin printed tank tracks. At the moment, Jeff is hard at work revamping the designs so they're even higher quality and easier to put together. But soon you'll be able to go back and buy SC3D tracks from scalecolors.com. As always, thanks, Jeff, for supporting us. And a special thanks to our Patreon supporters. Thank you to Paul Gallagher and Lord Floki. So thank you all so much for supporting us. If you want to get more access to Micro Machines podcast content, including blooper reels, why don't you go down to our Patreon? The link is in the description. Toss us a couple bucks a month to help keep the lights on at the podcast and get access to some cool content.
And I will say, so you will also find an extra lost episode that we did, and might discuss it with you two, but I reckon there's probably some 3D files that we could probably chuck up on there as a sort of incentive as well.
That would be a nice one.
For the, so it's only about $3 a month, so it's not too expensive, and I mean the other podcasts have a Patreon and they don't offer anything, so you get something in return for us. But
you get to hear us babbling on and some maybe not so PG-13 blues.
Yeah, like in you can hear Garrison talking about his base commander's wife getting a pair of new titties. Or you can hear us bully Ezra even more.
If that was actually possible.
Well, with a bit of imagination.
Alrighty.
Anyway.
Well, gentlemen, that was a podcast.
It was.
It sure was.
Well, if you've come to this point, thank you so much for staying with us. We will return next week with Cal, what are we
Uh,
returning next week with? Something.
That's a
We're
good
going to bring you
question.
something. It's probably going to be a machine, and it'll probably be micro. There we
Yeah,
are.
something like that.
Shit.
Well,
We need
bye,
to
everyone.
consult it. Yeah. See you later.
Righto. See you, fellas.